The information provided on the Forever Young Show by its host or sponsors is for educational and personal alternatives. Statements have not been established by the Food and Drug Administration. They are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Welcome to the Forever Young Radio Show. Over the past 2 decades, we have had the opportunity to serve and help so many listeners. We do that by bringing on respected educators in all fields of health and wellness. We pride ourselves on keeping consumers in the know about our ever-changing healthcare system and ways to support the body. Each week, with the help of our special guests and experts, we have one goal in mind, and that's to ensure every listener has the most up-to-date information on ways to support all aspects of health. Now, here's your host.
Hello, everyone. So glad you could join us today right here on Forever Young. If it's the first time that you've ever come across our show, whether it be on the traditional radio dial, Sirius XM, or any of the really great podcast platforms we're on, welcome to the program. We've been here for well over 2 decades. We show up each and every week with kind of a main mission, and that's really to inform and educate every listener on healthier lifestyle options and really great science-based quality information, especially if you are seeking to have better health, if you're wanting to learn about hacks, what's new, what's this new food trend, what's this new nutritional trend. This is the show that you could come to, and hopefully we provide that for you. We do that by providing you with podcast information, articles from A to Z. All of this great info can be found at foreveryoungradio.com. Again, that's foreveryoungradio.com. Go ahead and help yourself. The number one thing we ask, if you do like this stuff, is to share it with your friends and family. That's the best compliment that you can give and, put out there in the world, is by helping others. Now, I'm really excited. Anybody who's a regular listener of the show knows that when Corinna Bellizzi comes on this program, I am amped. She's here today. We're going to be having a great conversation about fish-free omega-3s. And she's going to share some of the supportive ways omega-3s can be incorporated, but also why it's very, very important to know your number. And again, Corinna's been coming on here since 2004. I want to give her a little pat on the back. I mean, she's an MBA. She recently went back to school, knocked that notch out. Just is a wonderful educator in our industry for so many years. She did shift her career and kind of, was focused a lot on omega-3s, fish omega-3s for a lot of years, until she found a better opportunity, not only for people, but also for the planet. I'm excited to have her on. She's an avid podcaster. She started her second podcast, which is Nutrition Without Compromise, to lean into the simple truth that great nutrition and bountiful health are a human right. Corinna, always a pleasure. I look forward to our time together. Thank you for carving out the time today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely.
Highlight of my week.
It's so fun when you get to talk to somebody that you've known for so long. And look, when we started in this industry, we were pretty young. We didn't have hormone issues. We didn't have kids. We didn't have all these different things. And it's been a very fun ride after all these years to kind of see how we've been able to, stay in the industry, maintain our health, and come up with little bumps and bruises along the way. Full disclosure, I have Hashimoto's. I've dealt with thyroid issues. We all kind of deal with issues.
What do they say? Ultimately, experience is the greatest teacher, right? And so if you've personally experienced a challenge, whether it's yourself or someone very close to you, then I think you just discover it in a new way. You get thinking deeply about it. You start to understand how that issue can be surmounted. You look at available avenues, whether it's medically speaking, and if you need that allopathic support, and also what you can do through your lifestyle, through diet, through exercise, and through supplementation.
Understanding and having empathy for people, because if you're not feeling your best and you're struggling with certain things, it makes everything harder in life. And goodness, Corinna, you've been talking about omega-3s for years. I mean, all the research, all the science, there's a lot of benefits when it comes to omega-3s. Would you agree?
Well, yes, and you'd think I'd be bored with it by now, right? But the reality is that there's new research that comes out all the time that really helps us to gain a deeper understanding of how fats really impact our health, of how they impact our hormones, of how they enable us to survive and thrive, and even their role in energy production, right down to the cellular level, to the powerhouse of the cell, our mitochondria. So it's so interesting. It seems that there's really no end to the depth of knowledge that we can discover something new every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And that the world is becoming more mindful on the importance of fats. I mean, we really do need omega-3s, and the body doesn't manufacture it or produce them itself. So supplementation is key. Would you agree?
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay. And this is one of the things that I run into time and again because people will ask simple things like, well, how much omega-3 do you need? What is the
Hmm.
balance or ratio of omega-3 to omega-6 that you need? What about omega-9? It's a very
Yeah.
confusing field. And every bit of science that we have essentially just points to one thing. We need to increase our levels of omega-3s. We have a really hard time getting enough of the powerful omega-3s, EPA and DHA, from our diets unless we're eating 2 to 3 servings of smash fish a week. And that's sardines, mackerel, anchovies, salmon, and herring. And then these species of fish are increasingly problematic too because so many of them are now starting to be farmed, and farmed fish don't have the same levels of these omega-3s. Omega-3s can actually improve our satiety, reduce our appetite, so we won't overeat as much. Whereas omega-6s, the seed oils out there that get so villainized, they tend to increase your appetite. So you'll eat
Mm.
more of that bag of chips and you're not going to be doing your health any good. You need fat, you need protein, but you also need the right kind of fat. And so getting more omega-3s does nothing but improve health. It can actually help you manage your waistline because you'll be less likely to overconsume and you'll feel just as satisfied. And ultimately, you'll be giving your cells the nutrients that they need to optimize their health so that you're the healthiest. So you can live your best life, have the best energy, have your heart health supported, your brain health, even your vision and your attention and focus. All of these things are impacted by omega-3s.
When we come back, more on your health.
Have you ever wondered whether you're getting enough omega-3s? At Orlo, we're so confident you'll see results with our better absorbed bioactive omega-3s. We're footing the bill to prove it with third-party test results. Orlo's Tested by You limited edition program is a first-of-its-kind initiative to help track your omega-3 progress before and after supplementation. Tested by You subscribers will receive 2 third-party tests with their first 6-month subscription, an additional value worth $100. You'll receive 1 test with your first shipment to establish your pre-Orlo baseline, and 1 after your 4th month to show improvement over time. Visit orlonutrition.com, that's ORLO nutrition.com, and get your Tested by You subscription today. While subscribers receive 15% off every day, listeners of this show will receive an exclusive discount with the code TESTFOREVER, all uppercase. Learn more at orlonutrition.com, that's ORLO nutrition.com.
Welcome back, listeners. Again, having a wonderful conversation with great friend of the show, Corinna Bellizzi, talking about the importance of omega-3s and just really having a wonderful conversation about what's going on out there. What are people dealing with? Could there potentially be any benefits? I think, Corinna, we've talked about for years the imbalance between omega-3 and omega-6s in the population out there. But I think knowing your number is very important. And that's why recently Orlo Nutrition has been encouraging consumers to know their omega-3 number. Is that because of a particular study that came out, or did you just feel motivated to get people to understand where are you at with omega-3?
Well, the reality is we can tell people all day long most Americans are deficient, but it does very little if you don't have a metric by which to balance that, by which to actually say, oh my gosh, I really am deficient in this omega-3. Knowing your number is one way to put it, but really there's this company called Omega Quant. They created an omega-3 index basic test. It's somewhat affordable. It costs about $50 a piece. You can actually take the test and determine what your level of omega-3s are in your tissues. And the tissues are the issue. It needs to get into your cells. We know at Orlo that our omega-3s are 3 times better absorbed than a standard fish oil. We also produce these only exclusively from algae, which is where fish get their omegas in the first place. So we're doing things more responsibly, but we wanted to prove it out. We wanted to help people see what their baseline is so you can define what your number is today before you start supplementing, and then also after 4 months of supplementation. So we launched this unique campaign, again, because we have so much faith in our product and its ability to be absorbed into your tissues and to change your health for the better, that we are funding this. We're essentially giving you $100 worth of tests for free. This is third-party tests. It's not data that we own. It's data that then gets mailed directly to your email box, and you get to define what your number is. We know that most Americans hover around 3 to 4% omega-3 index when the ideal is 8% and more. You asked me about the data that backs up this particular thing. And there was this very large multi-generational study done called the Framingham study. And through deep analysis of this study, just done outside of Boston, they have been able to determine that with an omega-3 index of 8% or better, all-cause mortality drops. Whether or not you are getting to that 8% strictly through managing your diet or through supplementation, this seems to be constant, right? Most people need to not only address their diet, but also supplement to get to that 8%. So it's a critical factor that can help you manage your health. We know that the research behind omega-3s is supportive of heart health, brain health, skin health, joint health, on down the line, total body systems. And that makes sense because they're used in every single cell in your body for structural components of those cells, for cell-to-cell signaling, for traffic of nutrients, for elimination of toxins. If we don't get enough of them, if we don't get to that 8% threshold, our systems are suboptimal.
Yeah.
And the further suboptimal they are, when they get into that deficiency zone of the below 4%, then you're looking at serious cascading challenges that will erupt with time. You could have a 4% today and be perfectly healthy. You could appear perfectly healthy on the outside. You could feel fine. And usually, if you're in your 20s and 30s and you have a 4%, you feel fine. Yeah. But guess what? It's going to start to erode your health with time. And that is when you get into your 40s and 50s and suddenly creaky joints, you don't feel so good, your energy is low, you might develop hormonal challenges. Who knows? You could suddenly suffer from symptoms of hypothyroidism. It could be any number of things. But really, it's just getting that omega-3 index up to 8% should be the goal of every single person out there. We know that most Americans, again, hover around that 4%. Vegans and vegetarians are among the worst. They tend to be around 3.5%. And there are studies that back that up as well.
Yeah. And let's talk about that. Is that why you've kind of coined and put out there the omega-3 index risk zones? Would that be the 3 to 4? Would that be considered a risk zone?
That is a risk zone. So, somewhere in the middle, let's say below 4% is really troublesome, right?
Okay.
6%, that's pretty good. You're doing okay. You're right in the middle, essentially. But it's at that 8 to 12% that you start to realize the true health benefits. I chose to take the test myself after 4 months of not consuming any fish, but only supplementing with 2 soft gels of our omegas. And that would be enough time to wash out whatever fish was in my system. And I was guessing I might be somewhere in the middle because it's just a baseline level of omega-3s. And I came in at 6.5%, which is actually quite good because I was virtually completely plant-based, right?
Wow.
And so I know now through that first test, after that 4 months washout period, I'm like, okay, I need a little bit more. So I simply increased my dosage to 3 soft gels a day. And I plan to take another test in a few weeks. So ultimately, I'm able to use this test to get into that ideal zone to truly discover what individual needs I have to ensure I'm getting enough omega-3 that is getting into my tissues. There's some other reasons that people should be concerned. Like, for instance, if they have the ApoE4 genome type, they're at an increased risk for not only heart disease, but also brain disorders like Alzheimer's later in life, right?
Yeah.
I have one representation of that. And so there's some concern that I wouldn't absorb enough omega-3 into my tissues like my brain and eyes, right?
Right.
By taking a polar lipid form, I'm circumnavigating that. I'm making sure that the Orlo's omega-3s, our bioactive omega-3s, are getting into my tissues so that I can ultimately benefit from them. And that's where I'm at today.
Corinna, so somebody goes to Orlo Nutrition, ORLOnutrition.com. They purchase the Subscribe and Save for the Tested by You campaign, and we could talk about that later in the show. But is it a blood draw on their finger? Is it a urine test? Tell us a little bit more about what that test entails.
This is an at-home test. It is called the Tested by You Limited Edition Program, where we've launched this summer, and we intend to carry this out over the next 6 months. And so people will go ahead and sign in. They will place an order for the Tested by You program. And ultimately what happens is they would get their first shipment that includes a beautiful glass refillable bottle, 2 pouches, which is 2 months supply of our omega-3, and also the omega-3 index basic test. They would open this basic test up, go ahead and register their unique ID online on Omega Quant's website. Again, this is third party. It's not our company. So, we're not controlling the results. It's, again, tested by a third party. You do a simple finger prick. They include a lancet in there, and you just drop a drop of blood on the card itself. You can then choose whether or not you want to also purchase some additional tests and have it done at the same time. We don't fund that part. We just fund the omega-3. But, if you wanted to, for instance, test your vitamin D level and your CoQ10 at the same time, you could. So you just register that online. You send it in the self-addressed envelope. You don't have to pay postage or anything else. And about 5 days after Omega Quant receives your test kit in hand, you will have the results emailed to your inbox. It will show you your complete omega profile that's in your blood, and you will get your percentage indicator. It may be around 4%. It may be lower, maybe higher. Who knows? If you eat fish consistently, you could have one of those rates that's like a 12%. That's the rarity. We've already seen some results coming in, and most people are testing between 3 and 6.
Wow.
That's the pre-supplementation level. And that's ultimately what we expected, given where the American populace is, that it would be somewhere in that 3 to 6%. After supplementing for a while, 3 to 4 months, you should see an improvement in your blood tissue levels, right? And so that's why after the 4th month of your subscription, you'll receive a second kit. Again, that's a $50 value, no cost to you. You go through the same process. You register it online. You send in your finger-pricked blood card, and then about 5 days after Omega Quant receives your kit in hand, they will email you the results.
And I love that because we have taken omega-3s for decades. I think the average person probably has. And there's a big difference in the different forms out there or the different products or where people are getting it from or who created them. And I think that it has taken a lot of moxie for Orlo to be one of the first supplement brands out there to offer such a test because obviously you stand behind, the polar lipids, which I'm excited to talk about today. But again, big pat on the back for putting this out there so people can see where they're at.
Well, ultimately, it's putting their health in their hands because we're asking them to test and not guess.
Yeah.
And if you're just taking a standard dose every day and it's not enough, how would you know?
Yeah.
How would you really know? You wouldn't. You'd just be guessing, well, I feel okay. I guess I'm doing the right thing. But we're actually showing you with data.
Absolutely.
And so that puts it right in your hands. And ultimately, I don't know of a single company that has ever done this, a before and after, and funded it. That just doesn't exist. I've seen plenty of attempts where somebody is like, oh, okay, pay shipping and we'll give you one test, or do this and we'll give you one test. And then there's a funnel to try and get you to buy, their whole system or something to that effect.
Yeah.
But this is different because we are standing behind not only the product, but we're giving you the data that you need to measure results over time.
Absolutely. We got to run out to that break, but go and check it out. Orlo Nutrition. That's ORLO nutrition.com. Again, this is the Tested by You campaign. You can learn a little bit more about it. But when we come back from break, we're going to talk more with Corinna. So stick with us.
Give your heart health and your immune system a boost with omega-3s and spirulina from the world's most sustainable grower in the world, Orlo Nutrition. Orlo grows algae in pure, sustainable abundance in their first-of-its-kind aquaculture plant house in Iceland. Their products are more bioavailable. This means you get all the benefits without fishy burps or nasty aftertaste. Orlo Nutrition's unique polar omega structure boasts 3 times the amount of absorption over fish or other algae oils. Orlo is the future of nutrition. Omega-3s and immune-boosting micronutrients that provide all the benefits without damaging Earth's ecosystems so people and planet can thrive. Visit orlonutrition.com today. That's ORLO nutrition.com. Get an exclusive 20% discount at orlonutrition.com when using the code FOREVER at checkout. Orlo Nutrition, because nutrition shouldn't be an either-or. That's ORLO nutrition.com.
All right, listeners, welcome back. Again, talking all about omega-3s. and really why the benefit you would want to know your numbers. Corinna's been sharing a lot of great information with us, taking us to class so quickly. I mean, your brain is gigantic, Corinna. I love that you have been able to continue to research, continue to kind of find how can we help the average consumer out there to be able to mitigate some of these issues that they're coming up against during that aging process when they really start to feel the deficiency in those omega-3s or the proper balance. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about the benefits of algae-based omegas over traditional fish-based products, because I think so many people times would go off the fish because they couldn't handle the large capsule. They didn't want to drink, the cod liver of the past. Even when it was flavored, say with a lemon, it would be emulsified. Maybe some people were burping it up. Kind of tell us a little bit more about that, because the size of the capsule of Orlo's products are so easy for me to keep people on to stay compliant because it's very small. It's almost like the size of a vitamin E.
Well, Kelly, I think you started this segment calling me a fathead.
Yeah, I will. I will. You're a fathead. That is it. I want to be a fathead with you.
Well, I love it. So, as it stands, these soft gels are different. I already indicated we're coming in the polar lipid form, but the reality is that we get our omega-3s, EPA, and DHA. The original source is algae. Fish don't make EPA and DHA on their own. They consume it from their environment. And so we ultimately have just circumnavigated that piece. We've gone directly to the algae, and technology has advanced enough today for us to be able to harness the full potential of algae to extract its polar lipid form rather than just the triglyceride form fish oil that you might see out there. And this is how the fats actually exist in our cells themselves. And so because it's how they exist in our cells themselves, they're much more easily integrated into our cell walls. It's like, think of the structure like you've got a flat bottomed thing trying to get into your cells, like this triglyceride form, which basically has them all lined up in a straight line, versus something that's shaped kind of like an arrow. And so it gets into our cells, becomes a part of the cellular lipid bilayer. And because it's in this form, it's essentially naturally emulsified, which means it's not going to create that aldehyde byproduct or that burp that you get from a traditional fish oil supplement. So it's in its original source, that EPA and DHA from algae. It's also a form that can be grown photosynthetically. So we're using today's energy, the power of the sun, to grow algae. Algae can grow exponentially. It can double its weight in each 2 days, essentially. So that's an exponential growth rate. And so it becomes this abundant resource that doesn't have to impact marine ecosystems, that is essentially the first life on the planet. Our first life forms were microalgae, and that's what we're going to. So it's really kind of this full circle perspective of not only going to the world's first life forms, but also harnessing the full potential that they contain to create nutrition solutions that are more bioavailable, so they get right into your cells and without having to worry about bioaccumulated toxins that might need to be removed using really invasive techniques and toxic chemicals that we don't necessarily want in our environments in the first place. We're able to really gently process these algae using only organic alcohol and water. And so the end result is just beautiful, and you'll see it in the product itself.
The number one thing that has really stuck with me, Corinna, and I kind of want to talk about it, is just how many fish go in traditional omega-3s, when buying just like a store-bought one, say you're going to Costco or something like that. How many fish are in there?
Well, it depends on the product. That's the short answer, but you're talking, typically it's sardines and anchovies that are used. They're considered pelagic fish. They're low on the food chain. And so the story goes that you can therefore have a cleaner product that doesn't need to be ultra processed. But every sardine and anchovy oil out there is, in order to meet California Prop 65 regulations and levels for toxins present in the oils, so they don't have to bear a cancer warning, they're distilled. And so that means that they have broken the chain and then re-esterified it in some way, in some cases using enzymes and things like that. So it's been ultra processed. It's essentially an ultra processed food at that point. We don't have to do that with the algae. And because of the fact that it's in this polar lipid form, you mentioned this, it can be in a smaller soft gel. You don't need as much.
Yeah.
So something that's say 250 to 350 milligrams of EPA and DHA together is equivalent to 3 times that from a fish oil. You don't need as much. It's easy to take. It doesn't burp back on you. You don't have to worry about the toxins because, I mean, we grow this algae using pristine Icelandic water, today's energy, and only the nutrients that algae need to thrive. We don't have to use pesticides. We don't have to worry about the infiltration of things like dioxins and PCBs and runoff from, agriculture, any of that. So it's a tightly controlled process. We grow indoors in a controlled environment 24/7 and ultimately produce the cleanest product out there. And we feel confident in saying that this is the most sustainable algae supplement in the world.
So great. I mean, how did the polar lipids come about? Was there research and then all of a sudden, is it a proprietary thing? Tell me a little bit more about those polar lipids because that's pretty impressive.
Well, I think people understand, generally speaking, krill oil because krill oil was all the rage about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Krill oil has phospholipids present in them. There are supplements out there that are other phospholipids like phosphatidylcholine or phosphatidylserine, right? That impact your brain health. Those are polar lipids, right? And so you essentially understand that these get integrated into your body more easily than other forms of fat. They don't require the same bile to even break down. So theoretically, someone who is missing a gallbladder would have an okay time getting polar lipids into their system, even if they had a harder time with fish oils. So this is something that is in its most rudimentary basic form that your body needs. And the only other way to get a polar lipid from something like a fish oil would be to consume roe. But even in the case of fish roe, they also bioaccumulate toxins from their environment. And it would be problematic because you'd need to process them to eliminate the toxins. And then you're in the same place you started with fish oils. So polar lipids from algae are perfectly safe. They're clean, they're pure, and it's a form of fat that your tissues use.
It's so interesting with this particular brand, Orlo Nutrition, and these particular products, because, I have a really good friend and, I got a testimonial back. She's suffered from like severe dry eye. I mean, nothing was working. The drops weren't working. It was a constant battle each and every day. She's been on Orlo a little over 30 days. And she goes, look, I don't want to jinx myself, but my eyes feel great. And it was a pickup on something you had shared in a previous show where, you had an eye doctor, he was recommending a bunch of stuff to his partner and particularly nothing was working. Then they found the Orlo Nutrition because they heard you on your podcast. And all of a sudden it's just like, it goes to show how important it is to have these proper balance of omega-3s within the body. But most people are thinking about other things. They're not thinking about ocular health, even though there's tons of studies on it. Pretty important.
Right. And if you think about someone in my situation, like the only reason I know that I have one representation of ApoE4, which is associated with Alzheimer's and all sorts of other problems later in life, is because I took a 23andMe test.
Yeah.
I was curious how much Neanderthal I had. So I just took the test, right? And it comes back and it has all these health questionnaires and things like that. And as I was perusing their site, they said, oh, well, you have one representation of ApoE4. And to then find out that people with this type of genome have a reduced ability to integrate EPA and DHA into their brain and eyes really revealed to me this deeper need for either a really high dose fish oil because you need to take so much more.
Yeah.
Or really being in the world I'm in. So it felt like serendipity, right? Like I'm supposed to be in this space. I'm supposed to be telling the world about how these polar omega-3s can be that much better for them. This is Orlo's bioactive nutrition.
That's such great information, Corinna. I really appreciate how you take the time to really, not only share your own story, but like share the journey of understanding this industry for decade after decade. And again, the more we can share this with people, the better off they're going to be because they're utilizing these nutrients in a proper way and not taking maybe a poor absorbed form. Because when it comes down to everything, I think you proved with the polar lipids, it's not about what you take, it's about what you absorb, and absorption is king. Listeners, over the break, feel free to go to orlonutrition.com. That's ORLO nutrition.com. Learn a little bit more about the company. I highly encourage you to get on that Tested by You campaign and learn more. Unfortunately, we don't give a discount code for that because it is already priced so low. And you're getting the free $50 test twice. So it's about a $100 gift that they're giving you when you buy that subscription to start. Corinna, we'll talk a little bit more when we come back from the break.
Feeling stressed and unfocused lately? You might be deficient in DHA, an essential omega-3. DHA makes up half the fat in your brain and eyes, and without it, entire health systems crumble. Thankfully, there's an easy solution. Orlo Nutrition provides active omega-3s in the polar lipid form for up to 3 times better absorption than fish oil. You'll get all the benefits of the omega-3's EPA and DHA in a smaller pill without that fishy burp. These active omegas get straight to work supporting your healthy focus, attention, vision, and so much more. Orlo is the future of nutrition. Algae-based omega-3s and nutrition solutions that are better absorbed for better efficacy and that are better for the planet. Visit orlonutrition.com today. That's ORLO nutrition.com. Listeners of Forever Young qualify for an exclusive 20% discount at orlonutrition.com. Just use the code FOREVER at checkout. Orlo Nutrition, because nutrition shouldn't be an either or.
Welcome back, listeners. Again, what a great conversation. It's so fun to have you here, Corinna, and you share so much with the listening audience. I learned something new, and that says a lot after a couple decades of being friends and you coming on the show. You constantly are reading the research. You constantly are finding better ways, not only for the people to have better absorption, a better product, but there's a planet for our little ones to come and our grandchildren. We can all enjoy that. So I really appreciate you being with me today.
Oh gosh, it's just one of my favorite things to do. So thank you for having me, Kelly.
Oh, you're very welcome. And, I feel like you can't really talk about a show or do a show on omega-3s without talking about inflammation or inflammatory factors. I think so many people are dealing with it out there. They have they're coining different things, inflammaging, rapid aging because of the chronic inflammation people are dealing with. But just as a health educator, would you kind of just mind just sharing with us what really happens when inflammation is unbalanced in the body for long periods of time versus just that short amount of time it was put in place to protect us?
Let's think about this. When you have enough omega-3s in your system, you stimulate prostaglandins, leukotrienes, and cytokines that work on the anti-inflammatory pathways. But we also stimulate resolvins, which resolve inflammation. That's how they got their name. And protectins, which protect against DNA damage. If you overconsume omega-6s and you're not getting enough omega-3s at all, then what happens is that you produce pro-inflammatory prostaglandins, leukotrienes, and cytokines. You also don't have active resolvins or protectins working in your systems. And so you will enter a cascade of negative effects. Now, if you think about this term that we heard over the last few years, cytokine storm, these two stories start to kind of intermingle. We start to have a deeper understanding of how out of control inflammation has degraded the health of people in the developed world. And I kind of don't like to even use the terminology developed, but I think people understand what I mean by that. Yeah. So when we have access to the KFCs and the McDonald's and food on the go and everything's fast and easy and prepackaged and manufactured in the food world, then we're not getting these core nutrients that help us resolve inflammation and protect our DNA from damage. That is where you enter this world of rapid aging and degrading health.
Yeah.
I'm 46. I'm going to be turning 47 in just about 2 months.
Yep.
And, I feel pretty good. My skin looks good. People think I look younger, maybe a little pudgier than I want to be today. But that's
Come
mostly
on.
because I've been tied to my desk and not going to
Yeah.
the gym the same way I like to.
You look great.
So, well, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. But I feel like health is a journey, and it's something that we all need to really focus on throughout our lives in order to be able to live this ideal that our friend Dr. Joseph Maroon has shared time and again over the last many years, that he wants to die young, as old as possible. And that means you have a true health span. I mean, I believe, is he 80 now, Kelly?
He's
I
like
think he's
82. Yeah, I was talking to the guest before you. He's 82, 83, and he's still doing triathlons.
he's still doing Kona.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about
Crazy.
doing an Ironman triathlon in one of the hottest
Yeah.
seasons in a tropical environment where sweat doesn't cool you down.
Yeah.
I mean, he still finishes, and he jokes. He's like, "Well, I'm first in my class, but there's no one else in his class anymore because who's 82 doing that?"
Yeah.
Now, I mean, he is a neurosurgeon, neurologist. He understands the importance of omega-3s for brain health. He's gone up against our entire government to talk about concussion and sports and
Yeah.
treatments for that. And you know what's in his toolbox is a high dose of omega-3s, and making sure that you've got plenty of omega-3s in your diet, that your omega-3 index is going to be at that 8% or higher. And he's fully bought into that.
Yeah.
So the reality of us being out here saying, look, you don't necessarily need high dose fish oil. You can have something that's better absorbed, that you don't have to take a honkin' pill of, or a tablespoon of some oil that doesn't taste great.
Right.
And you can go ahead, manage your health, take a couple of these tests, see where you are. And if you need to make further adjustments from there, you have the data in your hands to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So
to share a visualization of people in their 80s wanting to continue to exercise and do those things. And, for me, I intermittent fast every day, and I generally don't eat till about 1, sometimes it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That just works better with my system. But I have a lot of plates that I spin. I mean, I can't tell my staff or, the great people that I work for that I don't have a lot of mental fortitude in the morning because I'm fasting. So the number one thing I do every morning is I take 2 gel caps of the Orlo Nutrition. I take the omega-3, and then in the afternoon, I take 1 DHA. So I'm getting 3 caps in a day. And it's like, I feel like when I start my morning with that fat, I'm feeding my brain. I'm getting in just maybe a sip of little protein here and there within that morning, just so I start my day with a little bit of fat and protein. And I feel like I'm great all throughout the day at that rate. But I think that a lot of people eat differently. I think that a lot of people consume things differently, and this seems to be able to hit all the boxes no matter what people are up to: vegan, vegetarian, keto, pescatarian, whatever. Anybody can utilize these products, and you don't have to worry about, are they vegan or vegetarian?
Right. And they're small enough for a child to take. But you said something that I think is really important, and that is that you're taking this product in the morning before you've eaten.
Yeah.
If you're consuming fish oil, you really need to consume that with food to get your best chance at absorbing
True.
it. But because this is a polar lipid, you can take it anytime, day or night, with or without food. I literally swallow my 3 soft gels in the morning with hot coffee, and I never burp it up. Now,
Yeah.
I could never have done that with fish oil, and I don't
Yeah.
care. Even the highest quality fish oil out there, I could never have done that, because I would have been sitting there feeling that aldehyde byproduct pretty constantly. That
Yeah.
warm liquid would accelerate that process.
Absolutely.
And so it's just a great product, day or night. Whenever you'll remember to take it is the perfect time. The fact that you're able to remember to take it twice a day, hats off to you, Kelly. Most people can't do that.
Are you kidding me? I'm reaching for it. I mean, I feel so good in the morning when I take it. I've said it on the show before. I've never taken an omega-3 product where I felt it. I mean, I just haven't. I mean, we've always known all these decades, you take it because of the research, you take it because of the benefit, the ocular health, the cardiovascular, the joint, the cognition. I mean, everything that we've always read, the imbalances that we're facing. Feel it. If I forget to take it, I feel it. It almost gives me like a little bit of pep in my step. I'm not somebody who consumes coffee. I would like to. There's nothing wrong with coffee. I just have a little bit of a sensitive system where I promised my staff 15 years ago I wouldn't drink coffee anymore, and I've kind of stuck with that. So, I'm a person of my word. But at the end of the day, Corinna, it's all about just making sure that we're seeing the value, understanding our numbers, and really, trying this Tested by You campaign. I mean, what a generous offer for Orlo Nutrition to put out there. And I want to give you the parting words. We got 2 minutes before we have to end the show. Please share with our audience what you hope they gain from our conversation today.
Well, Kelly, it's through testimonials like the ones that you just shared, and also of your listener and of an early user of Orlo who said to us, they felt a difference in a matter of days, not weeks. That really keeps me motivated and strong to keep at this every day. The reality is that if you are taking an omega-3 supplement and you are not feeling a difference from it, that could be because you're eating plenty of fish and you're already in exceptional health. And so it's not going to necessarily create that jazz or that jolt, but you can prove it by taking a test. And so if you aren't at 8%, then, and you want to get there because you want that all-cause mortality to drop, then I would take advantage of this program, if nothing else for that, because not only are you going to get to test your data today, you'll be able to test it after 4 months of supplementation. You can make any changes that are needed from that point forward. And so the Tested by You campaign offered by Orlo Nutrition, this is a limited edition, time-sensitive deal. It's not going to be around forever because when you buy in, you're essentially committing to the next 6 months of being with us on this journey. And we also want to encourage each of you to share your story and your journey too. So when you do, if you share your story in social media, then you get the benefit of an added bonus discount from us after the fact. And we can credit that off your order. So
again, learn more. You can go to orlonutrition.com. That's ORLO nutrition.com. Make sure while you're there, you check out the Tested by You campaign, but also spend a little bit of time. There's a podcast button. You could hear Corinna. You could start following her program. I mean, just a wonderful company that's based on education and making a big difference out there. Corinna, I really appreciate the time you gave me. I look forward to you and I getting together again and having more conversations on this particular topic.
Awesome. Until next time, Kelly.
Always. You have a happy and healthy week, listeners. We'll catch you next time. If you get lost along the way, remember all of this is on the weekly highlight page at foreveryoungradio.com.